within companies, even American companies, within US companies, teams led by women have better outcomes. Sales teams led by women have higher revenue outcomes. Women are actually better fucking leaders when you look at the data, when you look at their ability to have collaboration, to have emotional intelligence, to lead and get everybody clear on role expectations and get shit done.
We're tired of the rules, tired of the shame, tired of pretending it's all the same. We're tired of the hustle that cuts us in two. We're tired, but we're stronger. We're breaking on through. We're tired as fuck, but we won't back down. We're tired as fuck, still owning this.
Welcome back into Tired as Fuck. Today, we are going to be talking about being governed by male emotional tantrums and the fact that half of our political landscape is being run currently by a very emotional man who actually wears a diaper. But collectively, this government is being run on emotion, coming from men who are supposed to be the non-emotional ones.
Coming
the ones
from
who don't
violent
get
men.
periods.
Violent men, just picking up on our theme.
Violent men. Right. Violent men. See the last episode. And so that's going to be our focus today, is this difference in what happens when you think about men's and women's emotion, how that is regulated as it relates to governing, as it relates to oversight in organizations and businesses, and all that we're tired as fuck about. And I think that Courtney especially has some really good data. She writes a lot about this in her blog. I guess they're not blogs, newsletters. I'm so used to saying blogs, right? Yeah, I mean, there's more blogs. And so I think this is really important as we continue to see what happens when men can't regulate their emotions and it turns into violence, and how that spills over into everything else. Again, institutions, organizations, and obviously interpersonal lives. So I'm going to have Courtney actually start us off and give us a little bit of the kind of facts and information that you talk so much about as it relates to these ridiculous emotional men.
I'm happy to, because I do talk about this all the time and I love to share information about this. I have kind of a thesis about this that I want to share, because what I'm seeing happen, and we're talking about this across the government, we're talking about this across corporate America, we're talking about this in interpersonal relationships with women a lot of times, in other areas of their life. And what I'm seeing over and over and over again is that women are taking on the management of men's unregulated emotions as the biggest chunk of their unpaid labor these days. That is the heaviest bucket of unpaid labor currently. And part of why I think the split between men and women, we see this, right? That men and women are so on opposite ends of the spectrum right now. And there's just like dating right now is wild, because like they don't want each other. They don't like each other. And I'm like, yeah, part of that is because so many men have refused to, whether it's going to therapy, whatever, pick your own adventure of how you want to work on that and how to actually evolve and regulate yourself and not be so reactive. There's a whole host, and it happens to be a lot of men that have never learned to do that. And so women are now picking up that slack. And a lot of times it's for survival, whether it's in the workplace, because you have to manage your boss's feelings because he's so reactive to an expression you might make on your face. And you have to manage that to keep your job, or whether you're in a marriage that isn't great and you don't have financial independence. And so you have to walk on eggshells to make sure you don't piss off your husband. We are taking on that emotional unpaid labor for men. And so I wanted to share that from kind of a thesis perspective before I get into the numbers.
Yeah, I love that.
But from a work perspective, because this is the lens I look at it through most, from like performance reviews and how women are perceived. I look at this a lot because I've been called emotional more times than I can count. I am an emotional creature. That's not a fucking insult. So you can call me emotional. I'm paying attention. So yeah, I have feelings about things and I'm going to express them in different ways.
Yeah.
78% of women, I'm not alone in this, right? Over 3/4 of women in the workforce have been described as emotional in performance reviews. Performance reviews, we're being told we're emotional.
Yeah.
Guess what percentage of men got that label?
20.
11.
What?
11.
I'm kind of honestly
2%.
surprised it's 11. You know, that's high, honestly.
So again, it's not actually based on anything. I also, in my day job, I work in leadership development and culture. So when I am talking to companies about their performance reviews or their managers or giving any kind of feedback to people and they say, well, we need better managers or Sally's not a great leader. I'm like, oh, okay. What are the manager competencies that you set up as expectations for Sally that is doing a good job? Well, we don't have those. Well, then how do you determine whether Sally's doing a good job or not? Well, it's more of a feeling.
That's an emotion.
That's a what?
Right. That's not a performance review.
That's not a performance review. That's your big feelings coming out in a way that affects Sally's ability to make money.
Right.
So I get big mad about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in those same reviews, 56% of women were labeled unlikable compared to 16% of men.
Yeah. And yet in leadership, I have seen in so many leadership trainings that the goal is not to be likable, right? It's not your job to be likable,
but it is. As a woman, that is
as a woman.
This is why women are set up to fail in corporate America, right? We are set up to fail because we are told, to your point, no, it's not your job to be likable. It's not your job to be whatever. Don't be too feminine. Don't be whatever. You're here to do a job. Do it like the men. But no, you are punished. You are punished if you don't fit the traditional expectation of a woman. You're punished if you don't. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. You know, what I have gotten several times, not in performance reviews, but also when I was teaching in evaluations, I don't tend to be very emotional at work. I tend to be very practical at work. And I got told that I was frigid. And I actually had a dean tell me that I needed to work on it if I wanted to keep my job. So
and it's
I'm damned if I'm not emotional.
Did you ask what that meant?
I did.
And what does that, how can you explain
He said,
to me?
you're not emotionally approachable. And I was like, I didn't realize I was teaching emotions.
And also, what does that even mean? I'm still not clear on that. Emotionally approachable to who? Did they have a question about the work? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So it is not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever been. I am a very emotional person.
Well, I'm really sensitive.
More than anyone else. And again, just like Courtney, I wear that as a badge of honor. And for me, it's my emotion. It's my connection to everyone else's emotion. I very much come from the perspective of trying to understand where people are and work with them for where they are. So all of that is emotion. And I've never been labeled in those kinds of ways as far as being emotional, but I have been bossy, right? And same thing. Okay. Well, if bossy means I said what needed to be said and then allowed people to change or ask questions or adjustments, then I'll take it because that's not going to change, right? But same thing, when there are women in power, when there are women in charge, when there are vice presidents and presidents of corporations and, women in the C-suite, anything they do is wrong. If they're too emotional, if they care too much for their employees, because she's a woman, she must be on her period. But if she is direct and, moving things forward and not taking shit from anybody, then she's too aggressive. She's too bossy.
Not assertive.
No.
Whatever. Never assertive. Never like, this is what we're looking for. Yes, we need somebody who's driving the ship, which is what you hear from men. It's always like, oh, she's so aggressive. Oh, she's
yeah. And it's like, it is. I lost my train of thought, though, because you froze for a second. And the way you froze, your face
was so angry.
You were like,
yeah, right. It was great. Tired as fuck about it.
That's the cover image for this episode right there. Yeah. But so it is, but to your point, like it is, no matter where it falls on the spectrum, it's not, there is no good enough for women. There is no, it is, if you don't comply perfectly in this one little tiny baby box that makes us very comfortable with this kind of subjugated, compliant thing that we want from you, then we're going to come for you, whether it's my end of the spectrum, Sandra's end of the spectrum, or Mel's end of the spectrum. Like we're coming for you.
But I don't think there is a box. I honestly don't. There's not a box. There isn't a way, unless you are a man, unless I can transform into a man, there isn't a way that I can behave that is acceptable. And that's the point. The point is that we only want to see men in charge. And so if there isn't more man-like that I can be, if I still have tits and a vagina, then it's gonna still be a problem.
Then you're out of luck.
Right. Yeah. Then it's not, then those behaviors in you are not appropriate. That's the thing is, women asserting the same behaviors as men are treated as if that is wrong and bad.
Well,
whereas it is lauded for men.
Yeah, and there's data. There's data that backs this.
Imagine if Kamala Harris had called someone horseface, or had made fun of someone with a disability.
Right.
No. The world would be up in arms. Like we had a black president wear a tan suit, and people were more upset than with Donald Trump calling people names every fucking day.
Well, it goes
Remember when Michelle Obama wore that sleeveless dress?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't shut up about the fact that her arms were out?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She can't have her arms out? Was her arm was there a swastika on her arm? Like, what's offensive about a woman's arm being on display?
Oh, but yet that she's existing as a black woman. That's what was offensive. That she was existing. No,
but that's the point. But yet this president is married to someone who has been nude on magazine covers, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that. But
that's a woman being in her place.
Yeah.
Right. Again, it's not. To your point, Mel, there is no box in which you will actually get this magical unlock of power or respect. There is no box.
No,
the box is, will you sell out hard enough? Will you prostitute yourself like a Megyn Kelly enough to make money off the grift and get proximity to power? I cannot hold more contempt than for people like Megyn Kelly. Because you sold out everything. You are the worst example of a woman in America. You disgust me.
Maybe so, but I also want to call out the women like Sheryl Sandberg who are like, just play the way men play. Yeah. Right? Just do it the way they're doing it. And which includes, pressing down upon other women and making sure that they feel like they're too emotional or not emotional enough, or rewarding behavior from men that you then condemn women for. Do all of that. Lean the fuck in, and you will get yours.
But that's what actually led to, like, and to your point, yes, that is exactly what a lot of corporate women did. We were told, lean in, put your head down and do this and you'll work up the ranks. But they're only ever going to let a handful of women do it because they're never going to actually let women have power. So they're like, okay, we'll give you a couple. We'll let a couple of the most white, thin, privileged, compliant women. Because go look at the women that are actually in power. They all fit those fucking descriptors. And we will put them in select positions of power, but we've now trained them to be our patriarchal cogs that do our bidding. And it's what led to, there's a whole, now you're getting me going on the research I'm a big part of. Like, I love to look up Queen Bee syndrome. Have you guys heard of this? Okay, This is actually a studied thing in corporate settings, in leadership settings, where when women are raised into positions of power, because it is so scarce, it is such a scarce commodity, power for women, that once a woman gets into that position of power, she looks around and realizes how scarce it is and that she has to keep other women down in order to hold on to that scarce resource. And so that's this, they named it a Queen Bee syndrome. That's why, Sandra, we've talked about this a ton, where I'm like, I have the worst male bosses that are so misogynistic and horrible and shitty and all this. And you're like, yeah, and some of the worst bosses I've actually had are women. The most sexist, misogynistic bosses you've had in some cases were women. And it's born from that Queen Bee syndrome of like scarcity.
Yeah, but even in those situations, right? Those women are still women that act so much better than most of the men I see in power. So I can't talk I mean, I can talk about Trump, but I don't want to. Talking about men in leadership, I actually had a CEO, like emotionally immature men running things. I had a CEO in the worst job that I ever had, which is saying a lot, who would come out of his office yelling and screaming at people. And people would say, oh, that's all it is. This dude called me a cunt at work. And I'm supposed to just be okay with it and gloss it over because you know how it is.
I feel like that's what the dickless Republican Congress is doing. Like, that's just how Donald Trump is. If he wants to blow up other countries, if he wants to start World War III, if he wants to let state executions ramp up in the streets, that's just how he is, you guys.
How he is. It's entertaining. I actually had somebody tell me this a couple of weeks ago, but he's really entertaining. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that the woman that got shot yesterday found that really entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, yes, if this were a reality show, which I don't watch them because
they're not real.
But it's not. This is our lives, right? People are dying every day because of these policies. And, if we now move that conversation up, right, and we think about that governance and what it looks like when these fucking emotional men who can't regulate themselves continue to be in power, we see things like, okay, let's create more violent atmospheres. Let's be more aggressive. Let's start wars or put ourselves in a position to be in place to fight with other people. Let's start taking things because I don't like the fact that people aren't talking about how great I am, right? Let's make sure that women don't have autonomy over their bodies. Let's regulate our policies and change our laws back so that women can't have abortions. They can't make decisions about their health. As a matter of fact, they don't even need health care. Nobody needs health care, right? And all of this ultimately, in my opinion at least, stems from that dysregulation. The fact that if we all just stood around and talked about how great the men in power are, then maybe they'd leave everything alone, right? Their attention would be so focused on themselves that they'd be like, oh, look at, I'm so great. Job well done. Yeah. And maybe they'd leave us the fuck alone. But that isn't, but we can't do that, right? Like we can't live our lives that way. And obviously we should not. But all of these policies that we've seen specifically in this administration stem from, and he announces it from the podium or any microphone he can ever get, when he's angry, when he's upset that people said something about him, didn't agree with him, don't like a thing that he's talked about, suddenly we're invading another country. Suddenly the laws have to be changed. Suddenly taxes are going up or prices are going up, or right there is a direct correlation between that dysregulation and governance.
Totally.
Yeah, something that you wrote down, Courtney, was tantrums as policy. I think about that right now with our health system, with RFK running this. RFK has decided that he knows better than all of the experts who've spent their lives studying this. And so we're getting an inverted pyramid, and we're getting nutrition pyramid, right? So red meat and whole milk is the most important stuff. And we're getting vaccines taking off of the recommended things because RFK believes he knows better than every expert out there.
And can we just call that for what it is, which is like the most overinflated egos, the most fragile overinflated egos of the most disappointing, mediocre motherfuckers we've ever had the misfortune of having to watch fumble around. Because this was the world you built. You built this for you to make things as easy for you as possible. And you are still unhappy and dysregulated. I come from Silicon Valley. Okay. I talked about this the other day that I was watching an interview where Mark Cuban was talking about his pharmacy. Okay. And he was talking about the pharmacy that he built and the way he gets better prices for people. And the person interviewing him said okay, well, if this is possible and there's a way to do this in a way that's so much better, how come somebody's not done it before? And his answer was so great, where he was like, because I didn't care about making money. I'm rich enough. I have enough fucking money. Like, I wasn't trying to optimize for profit. And it's like, we need to hear that from way more fucking billionaires and way more men in power, but we won't because they are so dysregulated. There's a gaping hole inside them. Look at Elon Musk. Look at Peter Thiel. Look at these fucking loser fucknuts that run the Silicon Valley. They can't stop fundraising. They can't stop trying to go to space because nobody likes them. Nobody loves them. They have a deep gaping hole inside of their hearts and souls that will never be filled. And so they're going to take us all down with them.
Yeah. Elon Musk was offered the opportunity to end world hunger. He said, show me how it can happen for $6 billion and I'll fund it. Like, experts got together and said, here's how you do it. And he didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, why would he?
They don't want to. They don't want to. That's the thing. They're sadists. They're empty. They're pathetic. And they have so much. These are the limp dick, smallest. These are the guys who sit in the corner jacking off where someone else fucks their wife. This is why we should be making fun of everybody who supports this regime. This isn't masculine. This isn't manly. This is pathetic. He shits his pants and makes emotional decisions on stage.
Yeah. I just want to be clear that I am okay with if everybody is consenting and one guy wants to watch another guy fuck his wife, and that's okay by me.
Listen, it's fine by
because
me.
That actually shows some emotional fucking maturity, in my opinion.
Listen, I'm here for that. I'm not saying it's not something I have. I'm just saying, don't sit here and try to pretend like you are the apex whatever of masculinity when you're not.
Yeah. I think a great way that you can see this in positions of power is when you look at the two Supreme Court justices who were brought up on sexual harassment or sexual violence claims, Brett Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas. They were both confronted in hearings by those women, and those women were torn apart for not being emotional enough. Clearly, they couldn't have gone through anything because they're not like showing emotions.
Right.
While the men, Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh, threw absolute fits.
Right.
Over being called to the carpet.
Right. I wonder if they were on their period.
Right. And that's why I say there isn't a box, right? We can't be more conforming and submissive and say all the right things and make that work and make any changes. We can't be assertive and give information and try to lead groups in a helpful way because, that's too much. There is not a lane that works because we are always going to be labeled. We have taught girls in this society that you are emotional. Like the minute that you're born and you get a label, boy or girl, the conversations are different. Girls are always taught about community and being joyful and not being too loud and helping each other and in this much more submissive role, and boys are naturally talked to about being strong and going and trying things and being leaders and what are you going to be when you grow up? You could be president, right? All of those conversations start the minute that a baby comes out. And so we, much as people talk about making all these changes, it is ingrained in us from day one, literally. And so anytime these conversations are had, anytime a woman tries to speak out, again, see the Epstein files. Oh, wait, you can't because most of them are still not turned in. But anytime women have something to say, it is emotional. You're sharing that because you're too emotional. And when men, to your point, Courtney, are visibly emotional and cannot regulate it, then it has not anything to do with emotion. It's about, oh my God, he's hurt. He's angry. He's, this is unfair treatment. What?
It's like, it's righteous indignation when they do it. It's righteous indignation when a man shows emotion or whatever. And when a woman does it, you are just a volatile cunt.
Yeah. Literally, I had this conversation with a man very recently where he asked me, why can't you just be okay with this? Yeah. And I was because it's not okay, right? The treatment that you are giving is unfair and unkind, and I'm calling you out on it.
And that's what I want. I want people who want to, I was going to say men, but it's not all men. I want people who want to subjugate women to understand you're a loser. Like, you're just a loser. And like, it's not going to work. Like, that genie is not going back in the bottle. If you think somehow you're going to magically get to the point where you get us back into, like, we're never going to stop fighting. And if you somehow get us to the point where it's illegal for us to work, or you do force us back into the kitchens enough, you know what we used to do when we had no fault divorce and we couldn't get out of bad marriages and we couldn't get out of abusive marriages? We killed you. We killed you in your sleep. So, I mean, we're not going to stop.
Yeah. The thing is, like, when women get upset, they yell and they cry. When men get upset, they lash out and they harm.
Right.
And I'm not saying, it's like, this is not, again, I don't want to stereotype. I am talking about the system that we have created, right? So that this is what women are meant to do if they're emotional. And this is what men are meant to do if they're emotional. Right? I can't tell you this, like I mentioned the fact that I was a victim of sexual assault in the last one. I cannot tell you how many men I have told about that over the years who are like, well, tell me who he is and I'll go kill him. You're not helping me at all, right? You're just getting your anger out and you're getting to feel righteous indignation while I still feel ignored.
Yeah.
Right? You want to kill him, but you don't want to help me.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah. And if I'm going to give some fairness to men, again, those same systems and those same conversations never talk about men getting support, right? Getting help, getting therapy, right? And they're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be strong. Suck it up, right?
Yeah.
Suck it up. Be a man. And so and I've seen this, both in my work, in my life, people that I talk to about things, there are not very many spaces for men to be emotional, to share their emotions, to share their feelings without them being looked at like they're doing something wrong and they are less than, because the same system that screwed women on that side screwed men by not allowing them safe spaces or the opportunities to make those changes personally.
Agreed. Yeah.
It did. Can I push back a little?
Please.
Of course.
It did. And I am just thinking about how many times, like, yes, systemically, I don't disagree with the thing you said. I think 100% you're spot on. And Sandra, when you were talking about the reaction of men to you, one of the things I was thinking is, part of the reason they don't sit with you about your needs and go straight to, can I go kill him, is they don't know how. They don't know how to sit in that discomfort. They don't know how to sit in that pain. They haven't been conditioned or raised to do that. I get that. I understand all of that. I'm married to a man who wasn't raised to do any of that. And I've watched him choose to evolve. And so I'm like, yes, none of this stuff was built in or taught or conditioned. But then when you get to adulthood, isn't it your job to then look back and reflect on some of the things that you might have missed? And like, when I look at the division of labor between my married friends, right? Almost always the social life of the husband is dependent on the wife. Like, the man doesn't even keep up his own friendships a lot of the times. He's not keeping up his own dentist appointments. It's the wife who's managing their social calendar, who's managing everything. And so it's like, I know that those women that are managing all of that, I know that in these marriages, there's women asking, hey, I want you to talk about, this is a safe space for you to talk about your feelings, because I'm also your best friend, because you don't have a separate best friend. A lot of women are their husband's best friend and they have their own separate best friends, because women have community, but they are not, men are then choosing at that point. Yes, it's because conditioning and everything, but they're then being given the opportunity to change, evolve, and give that safe space with your partner to start doing that work. And a lot of them still just choose not to. And that's the part that bums me out.
No, I don't disagree at all that it is all about choice, right? To your point, I am talking systemically.
Right.
But and I won't even say push back, because obviously I'm not in anybody's relationships, but I have a lot of married straight couples, friends as well. What I hear from the women who are the ones who kind of run the behind the scenes for the guy, there is a lot of, I wish that he would do X, Y, Z. I wish that he would talk to me about X, Y, and Z. But there are not those conversations that you're suggesting where I'm creating a space for you to be vulnerable. I'm hoping that you know how to do it like I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so and not to make an excuse, but I think part of the challenge that we all face is that we aren't having the conversations, even for ourselves, where we're asking for what we need. We're hoping that people will support us the way that I'm going to support you. But that's my own expectation that if you don't know how to do that, well, how are you going to just magically start? Because, and now I'm not saying it's on the women to be the ones to be their therapists, et cetera. But I think there's a distinction there that because there is not those opportunities, because it's not taught to them, because it's told that the opposite is true, you shouldn't need help. You should be strong enough to figure this shit out for yourself. That then if you get to a point, if you're the guy who has that background, if you get to the point where you do want some help and you don't know where to start, you're less likely to seek it out, because then it seems like, oh, now people are going to see me as a pussy if I can't figure this out for myself. Right. And usually it happens because amazing women like you are able to show up and say to your spouse, like, I need you to have a conversation about this. I need you to open up about a thing. I need you to get therapy, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't always happen because we got our own shit that we're trying to deal with. And we just want you to figure this shit out. Right.
Well, and to be fair, I don't have kids. So that's like an advantage I have of like, it's different. I'm sure as you're trying to raise kids, it's more pressure as a family, but it is. Yeah, I think it's a helpful perspective because I'm like, we all, once we reach adulthood, are responsible, right? Like we have to make those choices.
No, sure.
Yeah. I think another part of this emotional immaturity that we see is that, and this is something that I have seen in both in the high up, I see it in press conferences and all of this and in leadership, but I also see it at the very base, like me and other people level. Men are not taught to listen to women. Somebody posted, I wish I could remember who it was, but someone posted this thing that was like, hey, men, pause and ask yourself how many times when a woman brings something up, your immediate response is negative. No, but I don't think so. Well, what if not listening to their expertise, not seeing them as being capable of developing expertise.
Right.
That is another form of this emotional immaturity. And again, this is not at an individual level. This is systemic. Systemically, we believe that because, again, we have a country that was founded on the idea that women aren't people.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And frankly, we have a country that is being run not only by, when we're talking about emotional immaturity and like that it's like policy by tantrum right now. I think it's also important to point out that I don't know what all the system layers are that led to this exactly. I know our history has a lot to do with it, but we're also a country and a society right now that is being run by sadists. Like they enjoy this.
Yeah, people
they
who
enjoy the cruelty. They enjoy the destruction.
They've glorified violence. Absolutely, they've glorified violence and absolute power. And wielding power.
And so it's a gleeful thing. It's like there's a bigger chunk of people than that it is easy for my brain to fully comprehend who are so happy about this.
The way I've described it to people often is that it feels to me like my middle school bullies are running the country, right? Those people that just like to call you names to see you cry. Those are the people that I see in power. Now, these are the people that renamed to the Department of War. These are the people who militarized ICE. These are people who like see this somehow or another conquering as the best thing that we could possibly do. When over and over and over again, scientific studies and information and psychology and sociology and political science and all of these other places where people actually study things for their whole lives shows us that is not the way to go. That conquering and colonialism is the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And when you look at, I want to say, I think it's Iceland, like all of their top officials, like their president, their head of everything, like are women.
They're all women, right?
Yeah.
And every statistic that you look at for that country is great. Like crime rates, great. Poverty, like there's going to be poverty everywhere, but like every single thing. Now, granted, I mean, it's Iceland, right? So things are a little bit different, but just the idea that you can't run a country, you can't run things because you're a woman and it will fall apart because we're too emotional, just doesn't bear out. The facts just don't bear out when you look at other countries that are being run by, and then you look at a country like this who's always been run by a man, and look where the fuck we are.
Yep. And I have to tell you something else. It's not just other countries. The data in the US, here's my little knowledge coming back out from the shit I don't stop talking about in my writing, is that within companies, even American companies, within US companies, teams led by women have better outcomes. Sales teams led by women have higher revenue outcomes. Women are actually better fucking leaders when you look at the data, when you look at their ability to have collaboration, to have emotional intelligence, to lead and get everybody clear on role expectations and get shit done. My God, women are actually better leaders than men. Shh. They're afraid we're going to find out. Like, oh my God, we already have the data.
You know, if you want to like go back to that, let me just talk about historically very quickly. A lot of people nowadays are talking about women's sports and protecting women's sports. Did you know that the origin of women's sports is that men did not want women in their sports because women could beat them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They couldn't they couldn't stand the idea of a woman beating them.
Little baby.
And that's why women's sports came about. And that is, you know, that is absolutely us coddling ego in a way that damages all of us.
All of us.
Right.
All of us. Even the best men, the men who really try. I mean, my last breakup, he came to me and said, you know, this isn't working for me anymore. I was like, why didn't we talk about this? Why didn't you bring any of this up? Well, I thought I had to figure this out alone. This is a relationship.
Right.
You know, that is a good man. That is not a bad person. That is somebody who has been shaped by a system that tells him that solitary conquering of things is the only way that you can do it.
Yeah. I mean,
when we start talking about the leaders in our country, we're talking about people who are born into and have lived in privilege and power and financial independence their entire existences. So they've never had to have their ego checked.
Yeah. Yeah. So good point. Good place for us.
This is going to be edited out. We're running out of steam. It's all good.
To make that transition to our last fucks. Our last fucks, for anyone who's a new listener, is, you know, we do talk a lot about things that are obviously making us tired as fuck, but there's always something positive that we can focus on. So we like to end on that note so we can diffuse the rage a little bit before we move back into our regular lives. So who's got something wonderful that they would like to share as their last fuck? Maybe we don't have anything. Maybe we've run out. Maybe we're just so exhausted.
Run out of all of our fucks. All of my fucks are gone. No, my fucks are not all gone.
Behold my field of fucks, for it is barren.
Wait, hold please.
And you know what? I want to say, but that just means you have a lot of fucks to give.
But I don't. I'm holding.
You don't want to give any of them now. You have a whole jar of fucks.
I'm hoarding them like billionaires, the way billionaires hoard money. No, I think listen.
But you know, go ahead. If you have a thing, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
No, I was going to say that, you know, I think it's fair then to say that our last fucks are given to ourselves. And the fact that we do have the ability to, you know what, maybe we don't want to feel great about the world right now and the state of what's happening. And that's okay, right? That is what self-care looks like. So you know what, we're going to leave here and still be tired about a bunch of shit. And that's okay, because we're strong enough to know we are going to come back with some amazing shit. So that's perfectly fair.
That's right.
Yes. And same for all of you. Same for all of you. You're welcome to sit in the shit that's pissing you off right now until you're ready to move on. And if you're not ready, give it another day. So the next time you hear from us, maybe we will, maybe we won't have some shit that we are giving our last fucks to. But in the meantime, I want you to make sure that you are liking and following us wherever you are listening or watching right now. We want to hear from you, whether you're tired as fuck or you have something really positive that you want to share.
Yeah.
Share it with us. We want to hear from you. We love getting your comments and feedback. So make sure you reach out to us and make sure to join us next time. Have a great day, everybody.
We're tired as fuck, but we won't back down. We're tired as fuck, still owning this town. We're tired as fuck, together we ride. We're tired as fuck, fire in our eyes. We're tired but stronger, our voices collide. We're tired as fuck with the fire inside.